Have you ever felt something after meeting certain people? Maybe you know exactly what I mean. That heavy feeling, or the silence that lingers after your interactions with them, that hidden energy that follows you home. This is your energy field, and Carl Jung specifically warned us about these people. But in our time, these 7 behaviors have become so common that people now think they're normal. They're not. This isn't just how relationships work, and you're not crazy for noticing it. You've simply been systematically trained to confuse love with guilt, peace with silence, emotional neglect with maturity. You've been programmed to pretend you're calm, while your self-confidence bleeds out in secret. And the worst part, your energy field, that life force that determines all the money, happiness, and everything good or bad in your life, is being completely drained by these people. In this video, you'll learn all the tactics they use and how to protect yourself, so you can take control of your destiny. Let's start with the first behavior, the most subtle but the most damaging. Hidden mockery disguised as jokes. At first, it doesn't seem like an insult, just a joke. They mock you in front of others, and everyone laughs. Even you smile lightly, brush it off, maybe fire back with a sarcastic remark. But when you go home and the silence settles, the echo lingers in your mind. Not what they said, but what they meant. This wasn't the first time. They've mocked your thoughts, your clothes, your goals, even your body, sometimes subtly, sometimes making you the center of attention. And every time you play along as the good sport, because calling it out would make you seem weak, sensitive, or humorless. So you convince yourself you can take it. But the truth? No one ever taught you that humiliation doesn't hurt less just because it comes with a smile. Carl Jung called this symbolic violence, when emotional harm is wrapped in light-hearted language, making it impossible to confront without seeming dramatic. And the more you endure it, the more your brain rewires itself to believe what's being said, not just out loud, but between the lines. You'll never be taken seriously. You'll always be the one who almost made it. You're not a threat. You're safe, a laughing stock. And the worst part? You start joining in on your own humiliation before others can. You become the easy target, just to keep the peace. But a part of you is waking up now. And if you're honest with yourself, you're not laughing anymore, because deep down you know what's happening. You've trained people, through your silence, your laughter, and your tolerance, to break you in public, as long as it looks like fun. The emotional cost, your voice gets smaller, your presence softens, your boundaries fade until you stop expressing yourself entirely, because you no longer know where the act ends and the real you begins. You weren't born to be a joke. You weren't created to be the most harmless guy in the room, the one everyone laughs at because he doesn't fight back. Mockery isn't a way to strengthen bonds between people. It's the way hidden resentment is disguised. You don't need a louder laugh. You need clear boundaries, because the next time someone uses you as a target and calls it love, you either confront it or walk away completely. You bring up something not to start a fight, just to speak your truth. You're hurt. Something didn't sit right. Things haven't felt okay lately, and then you hear, "You're overthinking. You're too sensitive. It's not that deep." Before you even finish your sentence, they reject your reality. So you start editing yourself before you speak. You hesitate. You wait for the right moment. That never comes. You drop hints instead of being direct. You soften your words, thinking it's better communication, but it's not. It's emotional translation for people who don't know how to listen. And the longer you stay in this pattern, the more dangerous it becomes. Because eventually you stop expressing yourself entirely. You convince yourself it's pointless, that you're too sensitive. Maybe they're right. Maybe you are overreacting. Maybe your feelings are too much. Carl Jung called this psychological suppression, when you bury parts of yourself that bother others so deeply, you forget you ever had them. But they don't die, they transform. And if your emotions ever explode out of nowhere, rage, panic, complete shutdown, it's likely because you've been bottling them up for too long. Every time someone dismisses your feelings and you accept it, you train your nervous system to abandon yourself. Your body records it. You develop anxiety, you lose your appetite, you feel exhausted for no reason, you lash out, then apologize like you're the villain in your story, but you're not. You're just starving for a space where you can feel something without judgment. A place to express without correction. A place where you can say, "This matters to me," and that's enough. The worst part, emotional invalidation doesn't always come from people who hate you. Sometimes it comes from those who love you, but are afraid of their own emotions. When you express your feelings, they shut them down, not with cruelty but discomfort. But to your nervous system, the reason doesn't matter. All that matters is that with every dismissal, you lose your inner compass. Here's the truth. If you don't feel safe expressing a small thing, how will you speak up when it really matters? You're not overreacting. You're responding to a lifetime of being told your feelings are an inconvenience. And that's not weakness. It's system failure. You didn't choose it, but you can choose to stop repeating it. And this leads us to even more insidious patterns, ones that don't just dismiss your reality, but convince you it never existed in the first place. You remember the moment, the words, the tone, the facial expression, and then they say, "That's not what I said." You're imagining things. You always misinterpret everything. Suddenly, you're not defending yourself, you're defending your memory. No matter how calm, clear, or certain you are, they don't receive you. They change the tone. Flip the script. Now you're the problem. Your feelings are unstable. You're attacking them. And the worst part? You start believing it. Gaslighting isn't just lying. It's psychological inversion, where someone takes your truth and flips it upside down until you start apologizing for it. You leave the conversation more confused than when you entered. You doubt facts you know happened. You adjust your story to fit their comfort. And you start asking yourself, maybe I remembered wrong. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I should just let it go. Carl Jung didn't use the term gaslighting, but he warned about the splitting of the self, when the psyche fractures under pressure, forced to live in two realities. The reality your body remembers, the reality you're told is true. This split breeds doubt. Doubt becomes confusion. Confusion becomes loss of identity. Gaslighting isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's a smile and a gentle correction. Sometimes it's a quiet tone saying, "You're crazy," without saying the words. And because it sounds rational, you believe it. You call it a misunderstanding, a bad day, a communication error. But deep down, something inside you rings an alarm. Your stomach tightens. Your chest feels heavy. You walk away feeling like something happened, but you can't explain it. What actually happened? You learned to distrust your own compass and called it emotional maturity. But it's not maturity. It's mental erosion. And the worst part, once you've endured gaslighting long enough, you start gaslighting yourself. You get angry, then convince yourself you're not. You feel hurt, then downplay it before anyone else can. You hide your feelings from your own mind so you don't have to question them. This is the deepest damage. Gaslighting doesn't just confuse you, it rewrites your instincts. And if you endure it long enough, you lose the ability to tell the difference between danger and love. But here's the truth. If someone makes you doubt your memory every time you speak your truth, this isn't a relationship, it's a power game. And the only way to win is to refuse to play. They don't yell, they don't curse, they don't storm out or slam doors. They just stop seeing you. No eye contact, no warmth, no effort. They talk around you, over you, like you're just background noise. It's not the words that hurt, it's the erasure. And here's the twisted part. Because they're not evil, you convince yourself you're overreacting. But the pain in your chest doesn't lie. The weight in the room doesn't lie. You can feel the withdrawal, even if no words are spoken. Carl Jung said, loneliness doesn't come from being alone, but from being unable to express the things that feel important. This is the emotional loneliness you live when you're next to someone. Every night you show up fully, only to meet an emotional void. The long silence before they reply. The fake politeness, the dismissive tone. The way they check their phone while you speak. The way they listen like they're waiting for you to finish. Not because they care, but because it's a chore. It eats at you. Not dramatically, but quietly and constantly. You start walking on eggshells without realizing it. You overthink texts. You lower your tone. You shrink your needs. Why? Because deep down, you've been trained to accept the bare minimum. And when even that disappears, you don't resist. You surrender. You tell yourself, maybe they're tired. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe they're in a bad mood. And the part of you that used to speak up goes silent. Contempt doesn't look like violence. It's the cold in an uninsulated house. You get used to it, but you never get warm. You start living like a ghost. Everything functions, but nothing connects. And the real danger? Contempt isn't neglect. It's punishment. A slow withdrawal of love to teach you a lesson without them ever saying it. And the longer you stay in it, the more you start punishing yourself. You numb out. You stop expecting closeness. You tell yourself connection doesn't matter anymore. But that's a lie. Because the moment someone does see the real you, even for a second, it hurts deeply because you remember what you've been missing. So let me be clear. If someone makes you feel more invisible than seen, this is emotional abandonment. No matter how quiet it is, no matter the shared history, no matter how hard you try. You deserve more than just a body in the room, more than a wall behind the eyes. And this brings us to a behavior our culture almost celebrates, one people mistake for strength, duty, even masculinity. But at its core, it's the slowest form of soul suicide. Let's talk about self-sacrifice and how putting everyone first destroyed parts of you no one ever thanked you for. They called you reliable, strong, steady, the man who always shows up, the one who never complains, the one who holds everything together. And you wore it like armor. You carried the burdens, stayed late, paid the bills, handled the crises. You gave and gave, because that's what real men do, right? Don't ask, don't need, don't cry, fix, don't break, hold everything together. But what no one saw was that you were unsupported, drained, empty, exhausted, and yet you kept going like a machine. You stopped sharing what you needed. You stopped asking for help. You stopped expecting anything in return because you learned deep down that needing less made you stronger. Carl Jung called this the splitting of the self. When you write off so many parts of yourself in service of others, you don't become nobler. You become hollow. And then resentment starts creeping in. You smile, but your chest tightens. You help, but secretly hope someone asks, "Are you okay?" And it never happens, because you trained them not to. Every time you ignored your exhaustion to stay useful, you taught the world your energy was infinite. And this didn't start with your partner, your boss, or your friends. It started the first time you believed love was earned by being needed. So you kept earning it through silence, sacrifice, and service. You thought being good would protect you, but it turned you into a ghost, polite, empty, and never-ending. This doesn't end with one big moment. It ends with small, invisible things. You stop saying what you want for dinner. You say, "I'm fine," while screaming inside. You drown in work, distractions, or silence. Not because you don't care, but because care started costing you everything. Want to know what real strength looks like? It's not giving everything. It's knowing where you end and others begin. Honor your capacity without bleeding for applause. Have the courage to say, "I'm done carrying what isn't mine." The truth? The world won't tell you to stop sacrificing. You have to decide that for yourself. And now, we arrive at the most painful behavior of all, the one that turns your soul into a commodity, all for a chance to belong somewhere. You stayed, not because it was good or because you were blind, but because leaving felt worse than the mistreatment. You made excuses. They're under a lot of stress. They don't know how to express themselves. It's not that bad. I've been through worse. You told yourself, loyalty means patience. Love is supposed to be hard. Sacrifice proves commitment. But deep down, you weren't staying out of love. You were staying out of fear. And that's what makes this pattern deadly. It looks like devotion, but it's really survival. Carl Jung spoke about this unflinchingly. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. If your worth was tied to performance in childhood, if love was always conditional, if silence felt safer than honesty, you were programmed early to endure pain if it meant staying in the group. So you endured the never-ending criticism, the rejection, the mockery, the blame shifting, the threats, the punishment disguised as feedback, the constant walking on eggshells to keep the relationship intact. And maybe you thought it made you strong, but the truth? You disappeared. You became what they needed you to be, not who you were. You shrank your truth. You muted your intuition. You rebuilt yourself around their moods. And every time you gave up a piece of yourself for peace, you trained your nervous system that belonging was more important than wholeness. The hardest blow. This wasn't just something done to you. You did it to yourself. Every time you stayed silent when you should have spoken. Every time you took blame that wasn't yours. Every time you downplayed your pain to make someone else feel better. You weren't just enduring mistreatment. You were accepting it as your place. But let me be clear. The moment staying requires betraying yourself. That's not connection. It's captivity. You don't have to earn love through suffering. You don't have to prove your worth to people who benefit from your silence. You don't have to beg for belonging. If someone only values you when you're small, they don't value you. They value your compliance. And now that you see it, you have a choice. Keep shrinking for their comfort, or walk out of the performance entirely. And this brings us to the one thing no one wants to admit. You're not just the one being hurt. You've become the one who hurts. Not loudly, not aggressively, but in quiet, unconscious ways, just like the people who trained you. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of yourself you've rejected, denied, buried. The resentment you said you didn't have, the anger you promised you'd never express, the control you claimed to hate in others but now use yourself, in subtle, hidden ways. And the scary part, the more you endure abusive patterns, the more you internalize them, then project them onto others. You start gaslighting yourself. It's not a big deal. I'm overreacting. Then you gaslight others. Why are you so sensitive? You mock yourself. I'm always the failure. Then you mock others. Relax. It's just a joke. You shut down when others hurt you, then punish them with silence when you're hurt. You hated how they did it to you, and now you do the same. But your nervous system runs on a code you didn't write, and so you start turning into what you swore you'd never become, all while just trying to survive. This is the moment most people run from, because blaming others is comfortable, but taking responsibility for how you move forward in your life now, that's where real transformation begins. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is your crossroads. You can keep reenacting the script. You can keep recycling the pain, quietly, unconsciously, with a smile. Or you can break the cycle, not with guilt, not with rage, with awareness. The moment you see the pattern, it becomes yours to rewrite. This isn't about perfection, it's about honesty. You've been hurt, you've adapted, but those adaptations are now hurting others and hurting you all over again. This is your moment to stop pretending to be strong and start building integrity. Because without shadow work, there's no real healing, just self-deception disguised as emotional maturity. And this is where Jung's real gift comes in, not advice, but a system. A way to reclaim your mind, reclaim your power, rebuild your identity from the inside out. You see it now, not just the people who drained you, but the ways you handed them the tap, the patterns, the betrayals, the masks you wore until they almost became you. So what now? How do you stop leaking energy into false peace, toxic dynamics, and people who only see what you give, not who you are? Jung had an answer, and it wasn't, stay positive, forgive and forget, cut ties and live in the woods. It was differentiation. Differentiation isn't a mystical word. It's the psychological process of becoming your true self. Not the version that survived, not the one everyone loved, not about fixing yourself, but reclaiming yourself, piece by piece. And it starts with, stop pretending you don't see the pattern. Stop justifying bizarre behavior. Stop acting like your exhaustion is normal. If it drains you, distorts you, silences you, it matters. Name it. Manipulation, self-betrayal, fear running the show. Clarity is power. And if you don't name it, you can't change it. A boundary isn't a wall. It's a declaration of what you won't abandon anymore. You don't need to yell or explain for hours. You need one honest sentence. This doesn't work for me. I'm not available for this. If it happens again, I won't stay. People will push back. Some will leave. Let them. Boundaries don't keep love out. They filter the damage. Want to reclaim your power? Stop performing the best version of you. Start integrating the real one. Your anger, your desires, your shame. Not to act on them, to own them. You're not whole because you're calm. You're whole when you can hold your contradictions without collapsing. Jung didn't say, be good. He said, I'd rather be whole than good. This is real energy mastery, not control, not charisma, but containment. Stop leaking your energy to prove yourself. Stop explaining your pain to people who refuse to meet you. Keep what's yours. Speak when it matters. When something doesn't respect you, walk away. Not in anger, but in alignment. That's how Daniel did it. That's how you do it. Not all at once. One pattern at a time. One breath at a time. One moment where you don't abandon yourself. This is your power, not given, reclaimed. The line you draw, the vow you make, the moment you say, finally, I'm tired of carrying what shrinks me. You've drawn the line, you've spoken it, but the truth, This is just the beginning. Because the moment you stop tolerating disrespect, you become dangerous, not to others, but to the systems that benefited from your silence. People will test your boundaries. They'll weaponize guilt, confusion, silence, whatever worked before. Not because they're evil, because you broke a pattern they relied on. So you need something stronger than raw emotion. You need strategy. When someone tries to flip your reality, you're overreacting, you're too sensitive, you remember wrong. Don't defend, don't explain. Calmly reframe. We see this differently. I know what I felt. We can't have a real conversation if my feelings are up for debate. Then stop talking. You don't win by convincing them. You win by holding the frame and walking away if it's violated. Whoever sets the terms of the conversation holds the power. Hide your triggers. Emotional manipulators feed on your reactions. They drop bait to see where you hesitate. Next time, someone mocks you, dismisses you, or withdraws to make you chase them, don't flinch. Don't fix. Don't explain. Let it pass like it didn't touch you, then watch what they do next. They'll either escalate or get confused. Either way, you've taken their playbook. Stop making your entire identity available. People should know parts of you, not all of you. Protect your energy by not being fully understood. Don't broadcast what you're healing. Don't announce every boundary online. Don't perform your fears as authenticity. The moment someone knows what matters to you before they've earned it, they have leverage to pressure you. Control the information. Stay mysterious. Never fully decode yourself. If someone gives you the cold shoulder, withholds attention, or uses passive aggression, don't chase their energy. Match their quiet, then withdraw for a while. You're not punishing them. You're letting them feel the weight of your absence. People learn your value fastest when you remove it suddenly. You don't owe an explanation to protect your peace. Let distance speak louder than confrontation. Stop announcing what you'll do if this happens again. That's noise. Once you declare a boundary, manipulators will test you to see if you'll enforce it. Instead, say nothing, just act. They don't need a warning, they need a consequence. Want real power? Don't predict your exit, execute it. They'll mock you, blame you, make you look crazy for having boundaries. Use your past against you. Play the victim. Let them. The moment you argue for your worth or reality, you've lost the frame. You're not here to win debates. You're here to protect your center. Let your silence disarm them. Let your presence interrupt. Let your boundaries redefine the relationship without negotiation. The strongest move. Staying solid when they try to shake the ground under you. Sometimes the clearest way to see someone is to step back. Stop texting first. Stop explaining your boundaries. Stop handing out second chances like coupons. Give space. Watch who reaches out, who respects your silence, who adapts, and who doubles down on disrespect. Distance is clarity. Clarity is everything. You don't always need closure. Sometimes you just need a clean exit and your dignity intact. Real strength is invisible. It's not coldness. It's calculated energy. The world will tempt you to react, explain, defend, exhaust yourself. But you've been there, and it cost you too much. From now on, play to win, not to be understood. Move strategically. Protect your peace. Stop trying to fix people who weaponize your empathy. Because power isn't about control, it's about containment. And now, you have it. This is the moment. Not because something dramatic happened, because you finally know exactly what you've been tolerating. That love shouldn't cost your self-respect. That need doesn't mean love. Now you see, every time you endured a pattern that drained your soul, every time you stayed silent to avoid tension, every time you disappeared to keep the peace, you weren't being strong, you were being erased, piece by piece. So this is the line. No more shrinking to be chosen, no more fake laughs to blend in, no more apologizing for choosing yourself. Finally, you don't need permission to protect your energy. You don't need approval to trust your instincts. This is the code. This is the declaration. This is how you tell the algorithm and the world you're not going back to sleep. Because this isn't just a video, it's a signal. And if it ignited something in you, you know, the journey has only just begun.